Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and sorry for the delay, technical delays. I want to welcome everyone. My name is Karl Radnitzer, and I am, along with the privilege with Dr. Majerus and 40 staff members, have the privilege of working with our student body. We welcome all present and past alumni to the opening convocation for our 100-year celebration to the school that we love so much. We look forward to the upcoming celebration activities that have been in the works for the last 2 years. When we picked this weekend 2 years ago, we looked at the calendars and everything was clear at U of I. But that didn't happen. It looked like U of I also liked that weekend, and so did the foundation weekend. So we have more company than this weekend than we expected. However, we have 386 people coming to the gala tomorrow night. So, as they say, game on, let's do this. So, we first want to hear from one of our students that is, I think, a common thread in this school, as you saw in the videos, the importance of students in the lives of Uni. So, I want to introduce Lili, our executive president of the student body.
Okay, so everyone, as Dr. Radnitzer said, my name is Lili Tiouririne, and I'm the Executive Student Council President. And it is my honor to welcome all of you alums back on behalf of the student body. And we hope that being back here at Uni raises lots of great memories for you all. And thank you so much to everyone who has been a part of putting it together this weekend, whether behind the scenes or attending all these events. And let's get ready to kick off a great weekend. Happy Friday.
It is also our privilege right now to ask 3 alumni to come back and share some of their reflections and experiences at Uni. And I want to start with Irene Strohbeen. She was the class of 1974. She is an innovation management and new product development expert with over 25 years experience of research and development at Kimberly-Clark Corporation. She's now currently an independent consultant and providing product development and innovation consultants to small and medium-sized companies. She's also involved in leadership development, including diversity and inclusion efforts in the economic development in Southeast Wisconsin. She is also an entrepreneur in residence at Lawrence University and is growing entrepreneur opportunities for students and individuals in Northeast Wisconsin. She holds a BS degree in chemistry and mathematics from Lawrence University and an MS degree in chemical engineering from the University of Illinois. Welcome, Irene.
Well, thank you, Karl. Welcome, everyone. I have the distinct pleasure of welcoming everyone back to Uni High for the 100th anniversary celebration. Actually, it is the 101st anniversary celebration, right? So special welcome to those who are members of classes from my era. The first half of the so I have to just put a shout out for everyone. You know, that photo of Paul Creighton and Jennifer McClellan has gotten a lot of views. So congratulations, Paul and Jennifer, who are, you know, no longer a couple. A special welcome to my sister Evelyn's class of 1972, who are celebrating their 50th. And of course, my own class of 1974, only Blaine, I believe, is here in the audience. The others are still traveling here, but there'll be 5 of us here this weekend. And anyone here from the class of 1977? I know Sarah. So good for you having a presence here. So the Ang family had a definite impact in the 70s, and we hope to continue to leave a lasting legacy to Uni High, our alma mater. Janet and Megan asked me to comment on 3 different things. My memories of my time at Uni High, what my career path has been since then, and what the impact has been at Uni High on my life since then. And there have been quite a few years, so I won't go on and on about that. But in reflecting, I realized, wow, I started as a sub-freshman in the fall of 1969. That was not even 50 years after Uni was founded. So as we were saying earlier, I was part of the first half of the 100 years. That was actually only a few weeks after Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon. So that might help put that into perspective. It's quite a while ago. The building looks the same. The gargoyles looked as old back then as they do now. And I remember, if I remember right, the windows still leak, so not much has changed. But in looking back, that really was the good old days, or may I say, the simple old days. At that time, there weren't that many academic electives for us as students. Everybody took 4 years of English. Well, I guess it would be 5 years, right? 5 years of English, 5 years of social studies. Of course, we could decide how much math we wanted to take, science, whether or not we pursued music. But there were other electives that I'm sure are not offered now. A lot of us, when we were, it was either sub-year or freshman year, we took typing. And boy, aren't we glad we took typing. Now it's called keyboarding, but wow, it's a life skill. A few of us also took computer programming, so we were able to go across the street to DCL and make our punch cards and run them through the computer. That's not really what computer programming is these days, but we learned a lot. And I just have so many fond memories from my 5 years at uni. And some of these are little things, but they pop into my head. Things like walking down Matthews to do our PE bowling unit at the Union. Do they still have bowling alleys in the basement of the Union? Yeah, great. Do you still go there for bowling as a PE unit? Yeah. Well, you're missing out. When we were subbies, we had music appreciation and art appreciation. And I don't know why, but I've been talking about that with my friends lately. And several have said, boy, I wish we had had music appreciation. Because I still remember Schubert's Unfinished Symphony and the Brandenburg concertos, and so many people have no appreciation of those performances. Musicals and plays at Greg Hall. Of course, madrigals, of course, basketball games at Men's Old Gym. I could go on and on. And so it's amazing to me what I remember when I think back on those 5 years. I remember hating PE class, and yet, you know, some of the things I remember, like bowling and archery, you know, are things that come to mind. I was a late bloomer. I was very quiet at uni high. And at that time, I would never have imagined being willing to stand in front of you all and give a speech for the welcome convocation. That was not something I would have done. And so I have all my report cards from my years at uni. So I kept them. I probably kept them for occasions like this. So here's just a few samples. Mrs. Hogue, some of you remember her, English teacher, said, Irene's discussion grades were low again this quarter. I'm afraid this class of very verbal people somewhat overpowers her. I heard this over and over. The social studies teacher said she should participate more often in class discussion. And even my math teacher, Mr. Tremblay, one of my favorites, and I loved math, said Irene could afford to become a lot more aggressive in class discussions. So this was a common theme, 5 years worth of these kind of comments. But I found my voice, as they say. So I really took a lot of good lessons away from uni. I really excelled at math and science, but yet I learned from all my different teachers. So first and foremost, I love doing math derivations, and I learned that from all of my teachers. And I have to give a shout out to Dr. Zabo, one of the best. I learned math derivations and started with a logic class. I don't remember what year. And that served me well in many of my math courses in college, and even in grad school. In grad school, chemical engineering, one of the courses was heavily based on math derivations, so served me well. I learned how to write up science labs in my chemistry class. I learned debate with Mrs. Hogue. I learned writing with Mrs. Tibbetts. I have to give a shout out. I even learned a bit about history and understanding society from Miss Ella Leppert, like a lot of you did. So after graduating from uni, I chose to go to Lawrence University. My college search was nothing like what students do these days. There was no such thing as college tours. There was no internet, therefore no virtual tours. You had to rely on the brochures that they sent you in the mail, and perhaps word of mouth. So I was looking for a small college after experiencing small classes at Uni High. I did apply to the University of Illinois, but I didn't want to go to classes in a hall like this, where there would be hundreds or maybe thousands of students. So Lawrence fit me well. It's a small liberal arts school, residential in nature. Most of the classes were 20 or fewer students. There was a strength in humanities and in sciences. Does it sound a little bit like uni? That's one of the reasons I went there, as well as in hindsight, maybe I wasn't as conscious of this, but it wasn't that far away from home. It was still a day's drive or a half a day's drive. And, you know, I was, let's see, 16 years old when I left home. So it was a lot easier for my parents, I'm sure, to just take me to Appleton, Wisconsin, as opposed to putting me on a plane or whatever to go to the East Coast or West Coast. So Lawrence, I'm so grateful that I learned how to study at Uni High. In my matriculating class at Lawrence University, there were actually I was not. There were high school valedictorians, I was not. But many of them struggled during their first year of college. They had not learned how to buckle down and do homework. They actually had not learned very well how to write, and maybe not how to write up labs, how to be successful in academics. And I found that I didn't really have those kind of struggles. So I've been so grateful to uni ever since then on how well I was prepared for college. And surprise, surprise, remember I hated PE, but I ended up playing women's varsity basketball at Lawrence. And for those women athletes out there, you might know why. Because when the team started at Lawrence, Title IX had just gone into effect. It went into effect in 1972, but there was a grace period, so there was actually, it was not mandatory until 1978. Compliance was a little bit spotty. So when the team started and I joined the team, none of us really had experience in high school. So I had experience on our driveway. I had a little bit experience playing in PE class, but again, those of you from my era, women's basketball was played on a half court because I guess they thought women could not run up and down the whole court. So the offense was on one half of the court, defense on the other half of the court. Those were the rules we learned in PE class. I was point guard, so I called the plays, and in hindsight, wow, that was a great early leadership experience. But I have to say, my first experience being a member of a team goes back to uni and being a madrigal. So I have to provide this quote that Herscheline Griffin wrote on my report card. I think she typed this onto everyone's at that time. Choral work affords us not only musical opportunity, but the chance to grow as a member of a group. The concern we have for each other is one of life's greatest achievements. So that was a very formative experience as I was a member of Madrigals. After graduating from Lawrence, as I mentioned, I came back home here to earn my master's degree in chemical engineering. And then I took a job as entry-level scientist in research and development at Kimberly-Clark. And wow, in order to be successful there, really learned the importance of communication. I had to communicate within my team, to my boss, the people that I needed to rely on to get things done. So during those early days, I was a trailblazer. I was the first woman scientist in my department, the first woman manager in R&D. At that time, a lot of firsts for not just me, but women in lots of places. But I gravitated to product development. That was where many skills and interests were valued. It wasn't just technical. I needed to learn how to understand consumers, design products, know how to test products, know how to listen to consumers, work with a variety of people like marketers and manufacturing people, engineers. And so I grew to director level of teams working with all of these projects. So again, really played into my breadth of knowledge, skills, and communication. I left KC 14 years ago due to restructuring. And now I'm a consultant, as was mentioned before. I teach and mentor students in innovation and entrepreneurship, and I'm a new trustee on their board. It's a whole nother level of work, and it's very fulfilling. Again, working closely with different people and relying heavily on communication skills. So that's my life path. It's been some of it straightforward, some of it quite a squiggle, as some of us like to say. But there's some common themes in terms of requiring good communication skills and good team and interpersonal skills, many of which got a really strong foundation here at Uni High. So it's been very interesting for me reflecting back. I will always be grateful for the foundation that Uni laid for me during those 5 years in those hallowed halls. So Uni truly prepared me to be successful in college and in life. But it also taught me to learn and to try different things. So as a late bloomer, I think I've come fairly close to realizing my potential. Just my willingness to be in front of you here is an indicator of that. My siblings, Evelyn and Jim, have also been very successful in their lives and in their careers. And I think we've all given back to society's investment in us, as Ella Leppert might have said. As a member of the class of the century, our brother, Dr. Jim Eng, continues to contribute in many ways. And he couldn't be here this weekend because at this very exact moment, he's flying across the pond, across the Atlantic to Oslo, Norway. And he'll be representing the United States in discussions with the Norwegian government about advanced supercomputing developments. So in gratitude to Uni, my family has established the Ang Family Endowed Fund for Excellence for Faculty Development, and also a new fund for the Tutoring Center. Through these funds, we want to ensure that future teachers have the ability to keep current in their fields, and that all students get the tutoring support that they need to be successful. Here again, there's a common theme of helping Uni and its students reach their potential, just as the three of us have. So in closing, I add my and my family's good wishes and congratulations to Uni High for reaching this 100th, actually 101st milestone. I know tomorrow night we'll all be raising a glass or two to Uni High and another 100 years. Let's all work to ensure that Uni continues to realize its full potential as the university laboratory high school. Thanks for having me speak.
Thank you very much. I know our students have taken advantage of that. I'd like now to introduce George and Mary Louise Frampton. I'm going to read information on both of them, and then they'll both come on. George is a distinguished senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and director of the Council's Transatlantic Climate Policy Program. His background combines science, economics, and law. He served as a deputy director of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's 3 Mile Island Nuclear Investigation and an assistant prosecutor on the Watergate Special Force from 1973 to 1975. He worked on the grand jury investigation and trial of President Nixon's top aides in the Watergate cover-up. I probably saw you on TV. He graduated from Yale College Physics and the London School of Economics, Advanced Economic Theory, and the Harvard Law School, where he's a managing editor of the Harvard Law Review. Mary Louise is a professor emerita and immediate past director of the AOK Center for Critical Nation Studies at UIC Davis School of Law. She's a visiting scholar at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill Center for the Study of America South. She is taught in the areas of restorative justice, structural inequality, tribal justice, critical race theory, and professional responsibility. Prior to coming to UC Davis, she was at the faculty of Berkeley for 16 years and directed the Frampton Henderson Center for Social Justice there, a graduate of Brown University and Harvard Law School. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Irene. I think what I learned at Irene High was how to learn. I learned how to learn. I know that you could learn on your own in any direction without limitations as fast as you wanted to go, and how important it was and how I loved it. And it made me a lifelong learner. Certainly, Uni was the most intense, the most fundamental education experience I've ever had. I sometimes tell people that my high school education is here, college is here. Excuse me. A year of graduate school is here, and law school is here. NYU Law School, 1 year master's in law and Harvard law. That was even lower. So, and I think what was important to that at the time was what I understand to have been one of the visual concepts to Uni Highs, that junior high school is sort of a wasted period of time when your young minds are the most flexible and eager to learn. Working through those 2 years was unnecessary. You should jump over that and accelerate and push and open up minds. And for me, that really worked because, you know, in the 50s, I wanted to save the world, and science was the way to save the world. So I wanted to be a scientist, and it turned out at Uni High, part of what was happening then was this thing, the latest decade of educational reform in mathematics. The university going on a committee on school mathematics run by a brilliant guy named Max Lieberman. And so by the end of the second year at Uni High, some of us, including me, had already finished all high school physics and math. So I was ready to start college level as a junior in high school, which I did actually at the University of California, where I visited for a year. So that taught me how to learn, and how good I was, and how much I loved it. And it wasn't just math and science, because by 2 years of college, I absolutely hit a wall. I realized I was never going to be at all a medical physicist. So I had to find another way to save the world. I went to law school not knowing that I didn't really want to be a lawyer. My father was a law professor. But I thought that I would find another course after law school to show how little I knew where I was going. I spent 1 year as a visa volunteer in New York and 1 year in the Middle East Peace Project. And then I was completely by luck, I got offered a clerkship with Justice Blackhouse from the Florida Center. And very shortly after that, by sheer luck, I got offered a job as the junior person on the Watergate prosecution force by an old professor, Archibald Cox, who's been appointed to investigate Watergate. So those two experiences really led me to another decade trying to save the world as a lawyer. And again, by happenstance, 10 years later, I got a job and took a job as the CEO and president of the National Environmental Organization, the Wilderness Society. That time, Wilderness, Audubon, and Sierra Club all had just hired lawyers as the head of these organizations, and at a time when these organizations had environmental professional organizations. And I remember my parents, who had always said, you know, you decide to go on to run a gas station, you'll be very happy about this, your happiness. My parents were very worried that I had somehow given up on my career by going to work in an environmental organization. But that led me to spend most of the rest of my life in the environmental work, including the last 15 years, sort of on climate issues primarily. And I want to thank Rick and the committee in the school for inviting both my sister and me to talk, because we sort of lacked 5 years as the first half of the 60s. Like some others, you know, we knew people a year ahead, a year behind, the middle year, other families, the gold losses. The Lazaruses had siblings who were also bracketed that 5 years to feel of them even today. So I don't think of us, however, as being having a high school experience in the early 50s. I think we were in the late 50s in terms of the national consciousness. The end of the 50s, probably, but the beginning of the 60s, but our experience at uni made us more people in the 60s. We both ended up sort of wanting to save the world and wrapping around for a ways to do that. I just close by saying a reflection of some discussions with my wife, who said, well, my high school was supposed to become a high school, you know, waiting for the clock, get to 3 o'clock. It wasn't until college that I realized how important it was and trying to learn that we are really privileged to have had this experience. We have an education system in this country that basically only caters to the privilege. You have to be economically privileged to live in an expensive suburb of a public school or one private school or segregated, by and large. And to have a school like this available, we are privileged to bring that in a community and to have this, you know, unbelievable tradition. But it is a privilege. So we should continue to support it and try to grow it and talk about it publicly. which is what we're doing on the first year of high school. So thank you. Congratulations.
So what George didn't tell you. Is this on? So what George didn't tell you. Can you hear me? Good, good, all right. Is that I'm not actually supposed to be here. But when George was invited to speak, he said, well, I will come if my little sister can speak too. So that's why I'm here. So you can see what a kind, generous big brother I have. So when I think about what I learned at uni, I think the most important thing that I learned was courage. And that was particularly important for women now 60 years ago, to have courage, to have the courage of our convictions. It wasn't until I got to college that I realized, well, society really did expect women to be second class. I never learned that at uni. At uni, it was fine to be a woman and to be intellectually engaged and to feel that we were not limited in our opportunities. So you can imagine that college was rather a shock for me. And of course, by then it was too late. I already felt that I could do anything. Now, for any students who are listening, uni students, it's not that I felt courageous at uni high. I was very shy. I felt, as we all do, I think, as teenagers, insecure, inadequate, not very smart. So when I say that I learned courage, it's only afterwards that I realized that that's what I learned. But as a result of girls at uni high being told that we could have the same opportunities and the same desires and ambitions as our male counterparts, all of my friends at uni ended up having very rewarding and distinguished careers. And I think particularly of the late Barbara Lazarus and her brother Billy's here. Barbara went on to have a very distinguished career as a university leader, encouraging girls to go into math and science. But many of my friends had these same kinds of careers because uni taught us courage. What else? The other things I learned at uni were, as George said, intellectual curiosity. If you think about the curriculum in high schools now and about how set it is, and it's all about memorizing, that was never the case at uni. We were encouraged to think in the broadest, most possible way, to really ask difficult questions. There was one exception to that. When I was a sub, I wrote a paper on the benefits of communism. That I thought was really a great paper. And I got a 3. And I was disappointed, but clearly the message was, all right, you can go only so far. But I still actually believe in some of the benefits of communism all these years later. But I think for the most part, we were, you know, the world was our oyster, and we didn't just study Western Europe, right? We studied Africa and the Middle East and Asia, and we were really encouraged to push ourselves in the way I think is very uncommon in most high schools. But I think along with this intellectual curiosity, we were also taught to be intellectually honest. And I think we need that these days a great deal. And I think it was that feeling the responsibility to be intellectually honest that led to my career focusing on racial hierarchies in this country and really facing up to the history of this country. So briefly, just two other things. I think Uni taught all of us that wealth is not a measure of character. So thinking about my friends and what we've done over the years, we haven't thought about wealth as demonstrating success, but really as other qualities, like integrity and contribution as greater indicators of success. And I guess finally, friendship. I think about my friends at Uni High. They're all still my friends. Unfortunately, I don't think none of them are here. Our 60th is next year. So, but we're all having a Zoom call on Monday. And I think that this is what Uni High taught us. It didn't teach us that individual contributions or success were important. It taught us that learning is a collaborative process. We're all in this together. I think of that African word Ubuntu, that the importance of being human is not individual success, but our relationship with other people, that what we all do together. Uni wasn't based on sort of individual competition. It was very much a cooperative, we're helping each other and your success is my success. And again, I think that's very rare. And Uni is really near and dear to me. It shaped me. And I'm just thrilled to be here to celebrate the 100 years. And let's hope another 100 years in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very,
You're on. You're on.
thank you very much. And as we've heard from our student and 3 alumni, I hope the stories continue with students. Share them, laugh about them. So let that continue. I have 3 quick announcements. One, please come and visit the building. It is open. We do not have students in there today, so it is wide open. Come and visit. Second, I want to remind everyone to go to the registration table at the school if you haven't done so already, and remember to wear your name tags at all of our events, particularly the howdy hop, which is the beginning of the school day. Especially at the dance tonight, we have to do that. And then we wish we would have time to do Q&A with the speakers in front, but we need to be out of here at 1:30. So the last announcement is, I know we were going to have the alumni Agora classes and we couldn't do that today, but a couple of alumni have asked that maybe those who are interested could go to Murphy's. Let me clarify that, student. I said the alumni. Go there, please. That's just for the alumni if you're interested to go there and share some stories. So thank you very much, everybody. You are dismissed and enjoy your week.
Yes, thank you very much.
Monday. I'm talking to the Total Club on Monday. Well, I know.
So